So blight raided ugly head in the allotment last week. We had a guy out the back and the guy next door, both had potato blight. So in this video I just want to let you know that if you do suspect you have blight, and we're going to go into identifying blight, like you still can salvage your potatoes. I think there's a massive misconception going around that if you have blight, that's it, your potatoes are absolutely ruined, but that's definitely not the case. So hopefully by the end of this video I'll put your mind at ease and give you the tools and the tricks just to identify it, and then if you have got it, what to do, and you can really end up with a decent crop of potatoes. So blight is a fungus. It's airborne. That means it travels through the air when it's windy. Generally from late July onwards. If you're a little bit further south in the country, then it's sort of not uncommon to get it in sort of June, late June. It likes damp, warm conditions, so obviously we're getting towards the end of the summer. Starting to get a little bit of rain, it's still warm. It's the perfect conditions for blight to strike. So it's important, if you do suspect blight, and we'll get onto that in a minute, that you let your fellow plot holders know, because as I say, it's windborne, and once blight takes hold in an allotment, it can spread quite quickly. That's not to say if one plot holder gets it, everyone will get it, but you know, there is quite a strong possibility that that might be the case. Now, identifying blight might not be as easy as you think, especially in those early stages, and I highly recommend, I know it's not always possible, but to get down to your allotment every day if you can, or at least every couple of days, especially this time of year. We're in the middle of August now, but certainly from sort of July onwards, just to spot those early signs, because the earlier you can spot blight, you know, the sooner you can do something about it, and you can still get a really good crop of potatoes. So it starts off by little brown circles or little brown spots on the leaf. Now they quickly multiply, and it's quite fast acting blight as well. So once you've got it, it'll take hold quite quickly and it'll become quite obvious. So as I say, the earlier you can catch it, the better. So it'll start by little brown spots appearing on the leaf. They'll multiply and get bigger, and eventually it'll lead to big brown patches, which is just basically dead tissue. Now it's similar to sort of other diseases which don't affect the potatoes half as much. If you Google magnesium deficiency, it looks quite similar to that, but there's a telltale sign with blight on the underside of the leaf. It's got a slight white, sort of hazy outline on the brown spots or the brown patches of the leaf. So that's a bit of a telltale sign, because what blight does, generally speaking, is start on the leaves, as I say, with the little spots, and it works its way down the stem. If you're at that sort of stage, that's when you need to start to act quickly. Because once it reaches the stem, it can easily go into the potatoes, and once it reaches the potatoes, that's when you've got big problems. If it does reach the potatoes, they'll just rot very, very quickly, so they'll be no good for storing over winter. So we're talking about your main crop of potatoes here generally. Once blight gets into those potatoes, it's going to spread like wildfire if you're storing them in a hessian sack or anywhere you store them. So the key is to get it early. So one of the things, if you do suspect you've got blight, rule of thumb, if it's affecting less than 25% of the tops, the foliage, cut those infected leaves and stems off, and then you might be alright, you'll probably be okay. If it's more than 25%, you want to get rid of the whole lot, so chopping all of the foliage off and getting every last leaf away from this plot, because blight lives on living tissue. So if you've got some leaves still on top of the soil, it still could harbour blight in those leaves, and if it rains, it can get into the soil and go down to reach your potatoes. So that's why it's important just to get any of the tops away from the allotment site, burn it or just take it away. And if you do think you've got blight, one of the things that I recommend to do is just talk to your fellow allotment holders, you know, have a little chat, show them your potatoes, and just come to a sort of a group decision. There'll be people on your allotment who's been growing veg for years and years, you know, and utilise that, you know, speak to them. They might tell you straight away it's definitely not blight. So, you know, that's probably what I'd do, definitely speak to a few people. But if you're in two minds, if you do think you've got blight, don't take the risk. The worst thing, you just have a smaller crop of potatoes. So get the tops off. In worst case scenario, if it's completely brown, dig the potatoes up. It's really not worth taking the chance. So what I'm going to do now, I'm going to take all these tops off. I'm going to leave the potatoes in the soil for the next couple of weeks just to harden those skins off. So hopefully I can get them to the store, and hopefully blight hasn't gone down into the tuber. But what I am going to do is I'm going to pick a few potatoes at random, and I'll show you this as we go. I'll cut into them, and hopefully they're nice and clean, they're not starting to rot, and then generally speaking the rest will be fine. So I'm going to start that process. You can use either scissors, secateurs, or I've got a sharp little utility knife that I keep banging on about in all these videos, really worth buying one. A little craft knife. So I'm going to do that. We'll come back and I'll cut into a few potatoes and hopefully there'll be no blight. So I've got a couple of potatoes here. I think I'm going to be okay because it would be obvious if blight had gone down into the tubers. So I'll cut them open anyway, but I think it'll be alright. It's worth noting as well that when you're storing them in the Hessian sack or wherever you're going to store them, if you do suspect you've got blight, you want to be checking them every day or every couple of days, because if one potato is starting to show signs of rotten, it'll soon spread to all the rest of the potatoes and you'll lose them. So if you do see one, pick it out and keep checking them. So I've cut the rest, they're absolutely fine. So you're just looking for sort of any kind of browning. If you do find browning in your potatoes especially, dig the rest of them up for definite. Don't leave them in the ground because the rot will set in, and you might be able to salvage some by chipping them and freezing them. That's the only way you can store them really, once they're in the tubers. So if you've liked the video, if you found it useful, give it a thumbs up below. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, and just want to say thanks for watching, thanks for all the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.